tattoos. Both military and the one on your skin. Which one is the one on your skin?
What?
You might find out, and I don't know about that, with Jim Jefferies. One of them's a military march done by Scottish people with bagpipes, and the other one...
I don't even know what that is.
It's called tattoo?
Yeah, it's called the Scottish tattoo, the military tattoo, right? And that's where they all come out, and they play the drums and all that. They all walk out in fucking kilts. They do it during the Edinburgh Festival this August. It'll be coming up in a week or so. It's a big deal. They have it at Edinburgh Castle.
You should have done Fantasy Island.
It's shown on the... we know the difference between him and the skin tattoos.
Oh, yeah, because you never do ones that we know the difference.
Yeah, but you didn't know about them.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there's an Edinburgh military tattoo tour.
Is it spelled the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. They go up to the castle, they do, and the old people are fucking lined up for miles. And it's the only time during the Edinburgh Festival you went, well, what are these old people? What show are they singing? It's a fucking march with bagpipes.
Yikes.
The plane.
I've never been, but it airs on the TV. It's a big thing. It's on the BBC each year. People get excited by it, but the British are funny like that. They air things on their television where you go, what the fuck are you doing? Like snooker. I like snooker. Right? But
You mean from Jersey Shore?
No,
that's
it's like the pool. So snooker players, they all rock up in their fucking tuxedos to hit a little white ball into another, and they're very good. But you think that would be on some obscure sports channel? That would be ESPN4 or something like that.
Or the Ocho. Yeah.
No. BBC prime time, the number one channel, and they have it on for fucking weeks. You go, what? You've only got your 5 channels. You go, I wonder what the BBC's up to. We're watching snooker. They only have the one camera angle over the table the whole fucking time. Then you think, snooker's over. Surely they'll give us some good programming. What have you got for me, Britain? Darts.
Oh, yeah, I've seen
Darts. They will put darts on primetime TV with just fucking fat cunts, and they're like,
Drinking.
Here he is. Here he is,
Drinking.
Bobby McFarlane. Here he comes up here. He comes up and he looks out of one eye. 180. Like that, right? And then they've got like fat women who stand in the crowd and clap, and they're like the wags of the like when
The wags?
Wives and
girlfriends of the players. So in Britain, the soccer team, the wags are always these good sorts, are all page 3 models, all that type of stuff, and they get a bit more media. They get a bit more media than the players do when they're on tour, because they're like, the players are behaving, but the wags have gone off and caused some trouble, right?
That's what they say on there?
Well, the tabloids follow the wags to see if they get up to any mischief, right? So the wags get in trouble constantly during any cup game or anything like that. Posh Spice was a wag for a while, and now she's just Posh Spice. Victoria Beckham. Anyway, they have those same women, but they've got like tattoos on their fingers and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
And they've got like frizzy perms and that type of stuff. And they get on prime time cheering on the darts players. And then when that's over, good programming resumes.
It sounds like it was good programming all along.
What you do? You want to watch the darts or the snooker?
I want to watch the wags. I want to see what they're up to.
Yeah, the people who go to see snooker and make a sign. So it's go Bobby go. There's a lot of darts players called Bobby.
And still, and women and men don't play that game together. It's weird.
Oh, you can't have the men competing against the women in darts. The men are so much more powerful with their muscular density. They can throw that little tiny thing, whatever, 10 feet or whatever the fuck it is.
Same thing with pool or a snooker or whatever, billiards, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Same thing. The women and men should play it, but it's like an ego thing. You don't want to lose. You're like, shit. Like,
I find it so weird with the snooker. What are we worrying with the outfits? Why a bow tie? It feels like a very restrictive thing to wear as you lean over a table.
Yeah,
but it's got some flex in it.
Yeah. Yeah, the bow tie, and they have a cummerbund too, right?
Yeah. They have a cummerbund and a bow tie.
So they're dressed for prom.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, they're dressed for prom. And then they should go like the 10-pin bowling guy. You know, like their outfits. They still sort of have a golf type outfit, a collared shirt or whatever, but then they show a bit of flair. They wear a bit of Dan Flashes on some of their outfits.
Oh man, Jack is so happy you mentioned Dan Flashes.
Jack is gone. There's one sketch. If you think, I think you should leave now. The Tim Robinson thing, right? Mm-hmm. If you watch it, there's season 2, and there's one sketch called Dan Flashes, which is about a man who wears colourful shirts, and Jack has jumped in the deep end. He's gone for it. He watched one sketch, and how many Dan Flash's shirts do you have now?
I have 3, and they're all wild.
They're all wild, yeah. He showed up to play golf in one that looked like it was a little semen swimming across his shirt.
No,
Sure, we wore one on the
peacock
podcast.
feathers.
They look like peacock. They were peacock feathers, but they looked for a distance like he just had cum all over his shirt. Big, large
You
droplets.
can have both.
Yeah. Imagine how much that pattern would cost.
Oh, so much. I can't eat for a week. This makes sense if you heard the sketch.
Yeah.
God,
What have you got
I'm
for
us,
excited
Jack?
right now. So
Now I know about that, maybe.
Oh.
We still
Where's
have-
the theme song?
We don't have one for this.
Why has nobody made a theme song?
I don't know. It's rude.
Now I know about that. Maybe. What happens in this? What is this
Today,
about?
I will be
What's now I
quizzing
know
you.
about that? Maybe.
We go back through old episode topics and see if Jim remembers any facts.
Right.
Yeah. And how does he do normally?
Not well. I
It
make
varies.
a point of
It
not
varies.
remembering things.
Today's topic: Salem witch trials.
It wasn't that
I
long
can't
ago.
remember we even did that.
It wasn't even that long ago. Probably like 6 or 7 episodes ago, maybe. That was a good one, though.
It was
That was
good.
a great
Our
one.
expert was Jason Coy.
I didn't remember that it was. I thought it was a woman.
Yeah, I thought it was wrong.
You thought it was a witch.
No, I
First
remembered.
question:
I'm kidding.
how many people were accused and died during the Salem witch trial? So there's an accused number and a died number.
27 and 12.
27 accused and 12 died.
Yeah.
150 were accused. 19 died.
Well, pretty close.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Was a nice guess. Don't give him number ones. You can just guess those.
Yeah, but he was wrong, so it's okay.
Yeah, okay.
What methods were used?
Putting him in a swimming pool, hanging him, or just
Swimming pool.
yeah, not a swimming pool, but
Above ground.
you put them in a lake and you see if they can swim. If they can't swim,
Yep.
then they weren't a witch and they died honorably. If they can swim, let's pull them out and kill them because they're a witch. And then also there was they probably pushed them off cliffs to see if they fly.
Yeah. And the rock crushing, too.
Yeah, and stoning.
Stone press. There's only 2. It was hanging, and 1 person died by stone press.
Yeah, that bloke, he said more weight.
Yeah.
More weight. That's
Yeah.
I
right.
remembered that.
You
Yeah.
got the bonus question.
Yeah, more weight. That was the.
Was that your bonus question?
That was the bonus
he
question
was
for that
accused
one.
of being a warlock, I assume. And he
Everyone was a witch then.
okay. Well, you know,
I'm just saying. You asked the warlock question in the episode.
a lot of my
Everyone was a witch.
questions come from Bewitched.
Do you go back and listen to the whole episode?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
it's exciting
Good
for
for
you?
you.
I don't know if it's exciting.
Oh, they're fun though, aren't they?
They're fun.
Not a
Yeah,
good
how are we gonna sell it to the general public if you don't enjoy it, Jack?
Yeah. I don't know if it's exciting.
I listen to the
I've heard it
episodes. I
before.
listen to our old episodes in the car sometimes.
I think they're fun.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not what you said a minute ago.
I didn't say I was excited, but I
okay.
said it was fun.
Well, again, not selling the podcast.
You put me in a corner. What's the touch test?
Yep.
Let's see if you touch a witch and you see if you turn to stone or some shit.
No, but you got the touch parts right.
Yeah, wow. Will you give me credit for that?
No, I'm not giving any credit.
It's a touch. You test. And yeah.
So in court, it's like the women who were bewitched were always having fits and be like, "Damn, I've been bewitched. There's a hex on me."
Wait, what were they doing?
Damn.
You know, I would say that's a witch.
Yeah. Or a
If I
chicken.
saw someone in court going,
No, I have a hex on me.
I've always thought that with like the crazy defense when you like you murder someone or something, and then like they go, I'm gonna plead insanity, right? And they always go, oh, this person's not insane. You know what I mean? They just murdered 7 people. Aren't all serial killers insane? Like, can't we just give them that?
Yeah.
Just go, well, you are insane. You have killed 7 people. But we're going to test you now to find if we think you're insane. But if I went on there, I would they go, you're pleading insanity? I'd go, a boogie, woogie, 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 woogie. Like that. Now, at first they'd go, he's just saying a boogie, woogie, 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 woogie. But after you say it 600-700 times, people will be like, this cunt's only saying a boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie,
He's
woogie.
insane. Let
He
him
might
free.
be insane. We've tried to make him say other things. He just says a boogie, woogie, woogie,
You
woogie.
wouldn't be able to just only say that. You'd break.
Boogie, woogie, woogie.
You're the boogie woogie man.
All right. Is that what you're going to say the rest of the podcast?
So
Boogie, woogie, woogie.
So in court, all the bewitched women are going boogie woogie woogie. I've been hexed, and so the tell if someone was a witch, they go, okay, Forrest, you're a witch. You put the cast on me. Go boogie woogie woogie. You have to come over and touch me, and if I stop going boogie woogie woogie, then you're the witch because you broke the hex.
Yeah.
This test is ridiculous. It doesn't
You're a
make
witch.
sense.
No, you're a witch.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Oh, that's what they did.
No, I'm just saying, not you. I'm saying these people's
they were
methods are, yeah.
Last question. What is a witch cake?
Oh, I learned about this.
You didn't say boogie woogie woogie. Guess you're going to jail.
I know. I didn't murder anyone either. You know.
A witch cake?
Witch
Oh,
cake.
yeah, I remember this.
It's not Baskin Robbins.
No, they make a cake full of shit, just full of crap, and
Shit?
they give it to somebody, and then they eat it, and then they get hexed or whatever, and it's got a lot of iron newt. It's like iron newt mostly.
Kind of close. So I remember the setup for this question was Tituba, like the slave, was accused of being a witch, and they're like, "You can help us. Do you have your witch skills from the Barbados? How do we help people not be bewitched?" He goes, "Okay, we got a witch's cake. What you got to do? You got to take some oats, take the urine of the person who's bewitched,
Oh, yeah. There was something good in there.
make a cake, and then feed it to a dog.
What?
Break the hex."
Arnie.
I don't remember this at all.
I remember the witch cake. I don't remember feeding it to a dog.
Yeah, I remember that. I
I
forgot
remember
there was urine in
Tituba
it.
because you were like 1 tuba, 2 tuba, something like that. I
Yeah,
remember.
you pronounce it Tituba, and you go, "Oh, I like 1 tuba and 3
No,
tuba."
it was Tituba.
Tituba.
Titriba.
Tituba.
Titfora.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's what the number is.
Anyway, that's it for.
Wanna.
So
plane.
maybe we remember something.
How did he do?
I think he got a 0.
Jim Name
What do you mean? He got the
He
one
got-
thing right.
Which one?
The touch test.
That's the bonus question.
Oh, that's
the
right.
bo-
Okay, you get a 10 out of 100.
Thanks, man.
All right, let's read some
What
ads.
your scoring system is.
2 out of 3 men will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35. I was one of those guys. More than 50 million men in the US suffer from male pattern baldness. There's only 2 FDA-approved medications that can prevent hair loss. Keeps offers them both. Now, you go back, watch my early specials. As my specials go along, I get more and more hair. I get hairier as I go along. That's because of the Keeps. Keeps offers a simple, stress-free way to keep your hair. Convenient virtual doctor consultations and medications are delivered straight to your door every 3 months so you don't have to leave your home. Treatment starts at just $10 a month, and Keeps offers generic versions. They also have discreet packaging so your bloody neighbours, these people over here, they won't know what you're getting. They have no idea. Keeps has proven results with more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors. Treatments can take 4 to 6 months to see results, so what are you waiting for? Right? You want to see results soon. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to Keeps, KEEPS.com/IDK to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's KEEPS.com/IDK to get your first month Keeps for free. Keeps.com/IDK. Your home should show off what makes you. And with Jaybird's selection of customized furniture and modern home decor, lets you bring your unique style into your space. Joybird offers modern, customized furniture for every space, available in a variety of vibrant, durable fabric options. And with summer winding down, Joybird has all the modern outdoor furniture and accessories you'll need to make the most of your patio hangs. My home, look, I used to have shitty homes that weren't decorated, where I bought an item here, an item there, and they didn't quite fit, and then I moved them from space to space, and they didn't. Get yourself nice furniture. It's where you live. You have to sit on it all day. What could be more important than that? Ordering furniture online has never been easier, right? Choose from over 18,000 customized options or browse curated collections to find the perfect piece for your one-of-a-kind style. Don't know where to start? Book a virtual showroom appointment to chat with a showroom stylist from the comfort of your own home. That means you have a stylist. People pay thousands of dollars for this privilege. So someone go, you need that piece, you need this piece. Each piece is made with incredible care using responsibly sourced materials free of harmful chemicals. Though partnerships with groups like One Tree Planted, Joybird is helping conserve and restore the Earth's most precious natural resources, trees. Quality craftsmanship, stain and scratch resist fabrics, and limited lifetime warranty, Joybird furniture can handle anything your family throws at it, literally. And 90 days return. Joybird stands by its quality and craftsmanship. If it's not everything you hope for, send it back. You get 90 days to return the bloody thing. Create a space that brings joy with your Joybird. Visit joybird.com/IDKAT. IDCAT. I don't know about that. And get 30% off your... 30% off? Fuck me sideways.
Whoa.
That's a lot of money. 30% off your first purchase. That's 30% off at joybird.com/IDKAT. Now it's time for...
Wait, no, I got to introduce our guest.
It was good though. I like the enthusiasm.
All right, do it. Introduce. Come on.
Keep that in. All right, let's welcome our guest this
now it's
week.
time for... Sorry.
All right,
I've been out of it for a while. We took a week off.
All right, let's welcome our guest this week, Dr. Kurt Braddock.
Hello, Kurt. Dr. Kurt. Oh, wow.
How's everybody doing?
Good, thank you. Now it's time for...
Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes, no. Judging a book by its cover.
Okay.
You know what I want to ask? Can our guest hear that song?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we can't. No, that was
we
really
played jingle.
that was awkward.
If you can't hear, it's very mean-spirited. You would enjoy it.
Who's this ugly person calling in?
Let's find out about the shithead.
It's a lighter version of that.
You laugh at him and you get angry at me with my joke?
Yeah, but
Jack.
I time it lovely.
Jack, zip it up.
So Dr. Braddock. Is my saying right? Braddock?
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Braddock.
Braddock, yeah.
I've been burnt by a lot of these doctors before. I always ask if they're a medical doctor. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he is a medical doctor because he has books. Are you a medical doctor?
I am not a medical doctor. No.
Fuck.
The
Every
only doctors
time.
that have books are medical doctors.
The philosophy, you don't need a book. You just think about if the book exists.
Yeah.
Fair
Good
point.
Good
All right.
point. Yeah.
Are you a doctor of science?
A doctor of social science.
Social
not physical
science. All right, the social science. Are you a doctor of... Give me a hint, Forrest. Doctor of social science.
We're going to be talking about something that affects everybody in the world. Does that help?
Not really.
Yeah. I got a hint for you. Okay. You are, or you know a person that... No, let's not do that. The day when you left Australia.
9/11.
Yeah.
It's about 9/11.
No.
Oh.
Close.
What's the
Yes, it's about 9/11.
all-encompassing?
Oh, it's the proper 11/9, the real date.
No. What was
9/11. 9/11. It's what got me involved in what I study. It's the reason that I started studying what I study was 9/11.
Oh, conspiracy theories.
It's an ism.
Socialism.
Yeah, socialism.
9/11.
9/11.
Patriotism.
9/11.
9/11ism.
What happened on 9/11?
Well, I remember I woke up, it was like a normal day. Which year are we talking about?
I forget what year it was. 2001.
2001.
That was a big one.
Yeah.
That was one of the
It
more
was a big
prominent
event.
9/11s.
Yep.
The Twin Towers came down. So he's a doctor of architecture.
We're talking about terrorism today.
It's a
Terrorism.
doctor of steel beams
Terrorism.
and
Airplanes.
jet fuel.
Yeah.
And your kid might be
Thermite
born on
plate.
9/11, right?
What?
Your kid might be born on 9/11.
Maybe.
My
We
brother's
don't-
birthday is 9/11.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I
Is
never
it
knew.
9/11 today?
No, that's Scott's birthday is today. Grant's birthday is 9/11.
I should know what month I'm in.
If it's 9/11 today, you should be at home trying to figure out if you're having a child.
You
being born.
posted your brother's birthday, so I went, it must be 9/11 today.
Dr. Kurt Braddock is an assistant professor in the
Never
school.
forget.
Never forget.
Dr. Kurt Braddock is an assistant professor in the School of Communication and Research Fellow at the Polarization and Extremism Research Innovation Lab at American University. Kurt has done research to help several organizations fight terrorism, including the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Department of Defense, the United Nations Office of Counterterrorism, the British government, and the Canadian government.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah. His book,
Someone's been blowing up those maple trees, eh?
His book, Weaponized Words, The Strategic Role of Persuasion in Violent Radicalization and Counter-Radicalization is available everywhere online that you can get a book. Dr. Braddock, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how you got into this and what you specialize in and all that. So,
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I said, how I got into it was basically September 11th really made me angry. And I either was going to either join the military after I finished college or try to go understand why it happened. So,
Oh, sorry, wait a minute, just to make sure, you were going to join our military, right? After 9/11, that was. I just didn't know.
He wasn't upset that they did it without him.
I didn't know. I didn't know which way your anger was going. Okay, good. That's the right side. Well done.
Yeah. So since then, I've been studying the way the terrorist groups communicate and try to recruit and radicalize people to draw them in. So for many years, I was studying kind of the Al Qaedas and the ISISes, but since then, I've moved on to studying kind of the white supremacists, the neo-Nazis, the January 6ers, and understand the kinds of propaganda they use and why people are drawn into it.
All right. Well, are you ready, Jim?
Ready as I'll ever be. I know how to do this.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Jim questions about terrorism and
Please don't ask what is terrorism.
I don't know what number one is. And then you're going to grade him on his accuracy 0 through 10. Kelly's going to grade him on confidence. I'm going to grade him et cetera. We'll put them all together. If you get score 21 through 30, you're a terrorism expert, Jim. 11 through 20, alarmism expert. 0 through 10, a commism expert.
Right, okay.
It's not bad to be a commism expert.
Yeah.
Calm guy. Hey, what's terrorism?
Terrorism is terror, right? And it's bringing that to the ism, right? So,
What's the ism?
The ism is the general population.
Okay.
We're the ism.
Okay.
They're bringing terror to us. So what happens is it's a small group. It can be anywhere from one to a lot of people, but it's normally not a sanctioned bit of a military strike, but it's people who have a set of beliefs they want to bring down a certain government or group of people through the use of terror.
Okay. Who were the first people to engage in terrorism?
Well, that would have been the Rebel Alliance a long time ago.
Oh, that was pre this?
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah,
a very long time ago. That's basically, Star Wars is basically that. You got the big fucking empire, and then you got a couple of blokes with ships trying to put a fucking bullet into a manhole cover, and then that's how they blow
So the
it.
rebels are terrorists.
They were the terrorists in that situation, but we
Okay.
were on their side. It's very confusing when you watch it back now. You feel like you're a bit dirty.
Okay.
But when was the first terrorist act?
Yeah, first people to engage in terrorism.
That would have been Korag in his cave. There
Mhm.
was another bloke, Tugtug. And
Tugtug. Oh, he's new.
Tugtug. threw
Two-tug?
Yeah, he threw a big rock and fucking crushed Korag's wife's head. Not pleasant, but that was the first one. The first one of modern day.
Mhm.
There's been terrorism, I think, since the dawn of civilization. I don't think that terrorism is a new thing, but like, you know, if you want to go back in like recent history, like big events like Munich and stuff like that, or how far back are we going? I don't know.
I think you're good with that answer.
Yeah.
Tugtug.
Tugtug.
What kind of terrorism is the biggest domestic threat to the United States?
Domestic terrorism. That's American civilians fighting against ourselves, our own government or our own people.
Like, what's the biggest threat to the United States? The terrorism in the United, where does it come from?
Well, it comes internally. The biggest threat. The biggest threat is the unknown knowns and the known knowns and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's you know, the storming of the Capitol was domestic terrorism. It was fight against our government from a small group of people. But any school shooting or anything like that is
Okay.
I consider domestic terrorism.
How many of acts of terrorism occur per year globally?
Probably a couple hundred.
Couple hundred.
Yeah, but some of them are little. Some of them is just like Islamic radical
Farting
coming
in
in.
an elevator?
Yeah, like yeah.
Crowd dusters.
Coming in and you ask for still water, they give you tap.
Yeah,
You know,
man.
shit like that.
Hate when that happens.
Little tiny niggly type of things to bring us down.
Here's one you could probably answer. What is lone actor terrorism?
It's one fella. Or sometimes never a woman. Let's be honest. It's never a woman. It's always a bloke. You can say what you want about us men, but we get terrorism done.
It's a good one. Okay.
Number one when it comes to terrorism. We're also number one with serial killers. We have a lot of redeeming features that no one ever gives us credit for.
We have
men.
a lot of TV shows.
Yeah, if they made a TV show called Sally the Terrorist, I'd go, oh no, they're bloody pandering here.
I don't buy it.
I'm not watching this. So what's Sally upset about? Oh, yeah, she's making a nail bomb in her garage. Women don't use garages.
We're putting notes here in the doc. If
I worked
you're
at
wondering
Home
if Jim's
Depot
getting
and Sally came in and bought 500 nails and a steel drum, I'd go, Sally's up to no good. Where a man, I'd go, maybe he's making a patio.
What is the difference between a cult and a terrorist group?
A cult and a terrorist group. A cult can keep to itself, basically. It can be self-contained and not really hurt the outside world, where a terrorist group relies on hurting others to get its message across.
How do people become violent extremists?
Well, the answer in the modern days, the internet, where the internet fucks everything up. So you can get radicalized on the internet. Same thing as people see Islamic terror sites start reading about, the Taliban, all that type of stuff, and how it's much better. They get young girls and young men roped up into this very quickly, and they start people who are young and impressionable that want to have an idealism that they want to follow. And it's the same thing that happened with the dumb QAnon cunts who just listened to a message on the internet and started to read things into it their own way. And people believe that they're now struck by a higher power and their life has more purpose. If we just gave these people fucking good jobs and something to do, just chill out, man. You don't. Maybe your life doesn't have a higher purpose. Maybe you can just get really good at Call of Duty. You don't have to go crazy.
If you have enough time to become a terrorist, you have too much time.
Oh, I've thought about becoming a terrorist, but I'm too lazy.
Yeah.
Not for long. Got a
Brief stint.
Got a tax bill I didn't like. There was a pothole, and I was like, I'm going to take this place down. And then I calmed down.
Yeah, I didn't know that. We're gonna ask these questions. So I'm just gonna skip over and we'll ask them when we come back. But who is most at risk for becoming a terrorist?
I would say statistically, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong about this, but statistically, I would say it's probably disenfranchised white males between 20 and 45.
Okay. I'll ask
I also like how you said you didn't know that one, but then added statistics into it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I would think. I think because like there'd be people listening that'd be go, well, it's Muslims are the most likely.
Right.
But like I'm not saying they're not likely. I'm not going to pander and go, it's all white people. We're all terrible. No. There's fucking cunts everywhere. That's what you got to learn about the world, kids. Fucking cunts everywhere. Everywhere you go. Every time you're in a lift and there's fucking 5 people, 2 of them are complete nutter cunts. Just know that.
That's a good T-shirt line.
Yeah.
Cunts everywhere. All right, we'll skip that question. Well, I'll get back to these questions, but we're going to skip through some of them. Okay, which U.S. states have the most far-right groups?
See, that might be a trick question because I'm going to say the South. I'm going to say Alabama and stuff like that. But I feel like, I don't know if they're educated enough to make a group.
Okay.
I'm joking, Alabama. Thanks for listening. I'm going to go Alabama, California, Kansas, and South Dakota.
Okay. Who are the Oath Keepers?
I have no idea. The Oath Keepers.
3%ers. You ever heard of them?
3%ers?
Yeah.
What are they? The ones that earn a lot of money that are bringing the rest of the people down? These top 3%ers.
All right. What about neo-Nazis? What are they?
Neo-Nazis are folks that still reckon Hitler, he did an all right job.
That's what they think.
They like to shave their heads, and neo-Nazi, like a good solid neo-Nazi, but they believe they're mostly white supremacists, mostly.
Yeah.
They're white supremacists.
Some are good guys.
Yeah, who probably believe in an Aryan race and believe that the white power is, the white race is the most powerful one and should be protected.
Okay. You mentioned QAnon. You know about them, right?
Yeah. It's a little half Asian fella living in with a pig farm who's stirring up shit who should be in fucking prison.
You don't remember his name? You watched the whole documentary? You were in the documentary.
I'm in the documentary. That cunt should be in prison for fucking life. He's not cute. It's not a fucking game. People lost their lives. Families broke up because you wanted to be a cryptic little fucking wanker.
Yeah. Okay. What is the Turner Diaries?
That's when Justin Turner writes about Trey Turner coming to the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 1. I'm so happy, but I am worried for my position.
Okay. Spelled Trey wrong. It's with an A.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll get it. How many attacks have been carried out by the far right in the U.S. since 2000?
Since 2000?
Yeah. Far right in the U.S. only.
Like how big an act? Where people have died or just like, as I said, coffee mugs being tipped over?
Like a terrorist attack.
Since 2000 what?
Since 2000.
Okay.
Last
so
21 years.
Oklahoma was before that. Then we had a thing, and then are we including school shootings?
I don't know. It's what your definition of terrorist?
That's an act of terror.
Yeah, far right though.
So not just individuals.
Yeah.
56.
56. Okay. All right, we'll ask that question later. All right, the last questions here, kind of around January 6th and some other issues. Why did people storm the Capitol on January 6th?
Because they believed that the election was rigged, and they believed that Trump was going to be brought back to power because there was some fucking issue with some law that was made after Lincoln or there was a load of bullshit is the reason they did it. Complete and utter fucking bullshit is why they did it.
And were they terrorists?
Yes, of course they were terrorists. They had bombs. They had a nail bomb. My father said to me, he goes, "Oh, it's good that they bloody stormed the Capitol. They pay their taxes and they should be able to go." And I said, "But Dad, they brought a bomb." And Dad went, "What are you talking about, a bomb?" And then he looked it up and then he rang me back and he went, "Oh, it wasn't that big a bomb."
All right, 2 more questions. What is stochastic terrorism? Stochastic.
Stochastic?
Stochastic.
Oh, stochastic.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of sarcastic. That's sto means story from the Latin.
From the Latin.
Yeah. Castic means really like that, right? And so it's story, castic. So it's a sarcastic story meant in good faith.
Yeah, I think you got that right.
That's great.
Is Antifa a terrorist group? Why or why not?
I have very weird beliefs on both these things. I believe Antifa, for the most part, they're right about things, but I also believe just calm down. Everyone just stay home.
But you don't think they're a terrorist group?
I would say that they call themselves a counter-terrorist group, but I think a terrorist group is in the eye of the beholder a little bit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? To some people, they would be a terrorist group, and to other people, they're freedom fighters. And so what's the difference between a freedom fighter and a terrorist group? See, tricky, isn't it?
Okay.
But I just think, who cares about statues? Stop worrying about flags. Everyone just fucking chill out, stay home. If you just keep to yourself. That's the only rule to life. Don't be a cunt. Keep to yourself and fucking ride out this wave, right? It's all going to be over soon enough. Leave everyone the fuck alone.
All right, Dr. Kurt
John
Braddock.
Lennon had a song like that, I'm sure.
Dr. Braddock, how did Jim do 0 through 10, 10 being the best on his knowledge of terrorism?
Jim, no offense, but far better than I thought he would do. Actually, I'm gonna give him 8.
Yeah, man.
There's no way.
Oh,
Yeah,
what
mate.
the?
Didn't even know what oath keepers were.
Don't
Don't
be a hater.
He understands the nuances, and there's no hard, fast answers. So he did very well.
Oh, we didn't know that. You should have said that at the beginning. There's no real answer.
That's every conversation I have with my dad now ends like this. Well, it's a difficult situation, isn't it? there's a lot to think about, and then I leave.
How do you do, Kelly, in confidence?
I think he seemed pretty confident. I'll give him a 7.
All right.
All right, I'll give you a 20 on Setter. You're a terrorism expert.
Wow.
I guess we don't even need to talk to
I didn't even know what the different things I could be. I thought I was going to be
communism.
a bin lately, bin Laden.
Oh, yeah, I didn't make up a very good one.
Yeah. Where have you been?
Laden.
Yeah, Laden.
Okay, you want to be that one?
Oh, I'll be where have you been, Laden.
Okay,
Perfect.
that's it.
As someone who's got dyslexia, I always found it very hard to read, so I never really bothered with books, and I felt like I missed out on a lot of things until I was able to listen to them. With Scribd, you get instant access to millions of ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, and more, and you also get thoughtfully created editor's pick and smart recommendations based on what you read, which makes choosing your next book even more simpler. Scribd changed my life, people. Scribd is like your favorite streaming service, but for books. Listen, instead of standing in front of a bookshelf waiting for a title to jump out at you, sign up to Scribd. You get instant access to millions of ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, and more, all for this one lowly monthly subscription. My wife and I are having a baby, and we've been listening to audiobooks about getting ready for the arrival, what to expect when you're expecting, and whatever like that. With Scribd, the world's most fascinating library is at your fingertips, all for just $9.99 a month. Explore all your interests in any format with millions of ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, and more, and you'll get instant access to Scribd's entire library for less than the cost of a single book. So you get 18,000 books. You get all those books for the price of one book. Well, why wouldn't you do it? It couldn't be simpler. No complicated credits or additional purchases. They don't try to upsell you inside. Right now, Scribd is offering our listeners a free 60-day trial. Go to try.scribd.com/Jim for your free trial. That's try.scribd.com/Jim to get a 60-day Scribd for free. When was the last time you got rewarded for brushing your teeth? Never. No, I've never seen a medal for it. With Quip's smart electronic toothbrush, good habits can earn you great perks like free products, gift cards, and more. Geez, I'll have to read more about this. You've probably heard people mention Quip a million times, but this is something brand new that rewards you and your mouth. The Quip Smart Brush for adults and kids connects to the Quip app with Bluetooth. Track when and how well you brush, get tips on coaching and improving your habits, earn points for daily brushing, and bonus points for completing challenges like streaks. Redeem the rewards for free gifts like products and discounts from Quip and the partners. Quip. You already have Quip?
Yes.
You bloody already have it. You already have it. Upgrade it with a smart motor and keep the features you already know and love. Beyond the brush, Quip has everything you need to complete your routine. Mint and watermelon toothpaste with anti-cavity ingredients for strong, healthy teeth. Floss that expands to clean and comes in refillable dispensers to reduce waste. Refillable mouthwash that's good for you and the planet, and even refillable sugar-free gum. You should be doing these things anyway, but they're giving you rewards, right, for brushing your bloody teeth. Cool. And it's teaching your kids, teaching them good daily habits. In addition to brush heads, Quip also delivers fresh floss, toothpaste, mouthwash, and gum refills with every 3 months. What? Every 3 months? For $5. For $5, you get floss, toothpaste, mouthwash, gum refills, $5.
What the
Shipping is free. So you can save money and skip the hassle and bustle of in-store shopping. Join the over 5 million mouths that use Quip and save hundreds of dollars compared to other Bluetooth toothbrushes when you get Quip's smart brush for just $45. Start getting rewards for brushing your teeth today. Go to quip.com/I don't know right now and save $10 on the Quip Smart Electric Toothbrush. That's $10 off the Smart Electric Toothbrush at getquip.com/I-don't-know. That's, spell it, that's getquip.com/I-don't-know. Quip, the good habits company.
All right. What is terrorism? Jim said it's terror, and it's bringing in that to the ism. We're the ism. And you gave him 8, by the way. Do you want to remind you?
It wasn't on the strength of this answer.
Okay.
He did better. He did better as the guy went on. So generally speaking, there's 4 main components of what constitutes terrorism. And Jim mentioned school shootings a couple of times. School shootings typically aren't considered terrorism, although even though they do scare people, because the 4 main elements are obviously the use of violence or the threat of the use of violence. So it can be either one of those. It has to be in support of some political, religious, or ideological goal. It needs to be against civilians or non-combatants, so not against soldiers. And although this is changing a little bit, typically the attack is meant to persuade people other than the people who are being attacked. The attack is meant to communicate to other people. So on September 11th, the attack on the Twin Towers was meant to persuade the government, and the people who were killed in the Twin Towers were the means by which that was communicated. Okay. That's kind of changing, though, because as political violence has changed, people do seem to be targeting each other just for the sake of killing them now, too.
Mm. Who were the first people to engage in terrorism? Jim said the rebels from Star Wars. Again, you gave him an 8. And then he went to Korag in his cave, two-tug through a rock and crushed Korag's wife in the head. But as a side note,
Tell me it didn't happen. Prove it didn't happen.
In Star Wars, they are terrorists. And the rebels, are they considered terrorists? Or?
They would be, yeah. And I mean, there's a really good conversation in Clerks about it when Randall talks to Dante about they killed all of those workers on the Death Star, and those are civilian workers. They're contractors. So, I mean, there actually have been papers written about whether this is terrorism or not. This has been like studied academically.
Yeah, fucking Yoda is a Bin Laden kind of ever sitting in his little hovel just going, go out there. Like that. Yeah, Yoda's evil, man.
So who were the first people to engage in terrorism then?
So a lot of people trace it to the French Revolution. There was a group called the Jacobin Club or Jacobin Club who would put people on trial and execute them, civilians included, for political crimes. But some people think it dates as far back as the 1st century, like literally year 6, when a Jewish offshoot group who was really militant against the Romans who were in Judea. This group, they were called the something Zealots. They were an offshoot of the Zealots, and they would kill Jewish collaborators with the Roman Empire. Like they would have blades during speeches, and they would kill people during the speeches. And a lot of people think, at least in terms of recorded history, that was the first time terrorism, as it's defined now, actually happened.
Okay. What kind of terrorism is the biggest domestic threat to the United States?
What did I say?
All right, so I'm going
Jim
to
said domestic
You
terrorism.
said domestic terrorism. You just repeated the thing.
Yeah, you said from inside. So
Got an 8.
yeah.
Got an
Jim
8.
gets better as he goes on.
Yeah, okay.
So this is what's you're gonna have fun in your
Everyone's
comments.
passing his course, by the way.
A+.
You got to take Dr. Braddock's course, man. It's easy 8.
Yeah, I'd appreciate if you didn't talk to my dean about grade inflation. But I mean, this is where we're gonna really kind of spike your comment sections on your YouTube page, and I'm sure I'll get emails about it. But it's not even close. It's the far right in the U.S. is the biggest threat. Every database that looks at a number of attacks, number of people who have been arrested, number of plots, everything else, the far right, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, militias, they far outpace anybody else, and it's not even close. So, I mean, this is inherently charged politically, but I just look at data, and the data are really clear that the far right is by far, you're much more likely to be killed by somebody on the far right than any other ideology right now.
That's nice.
All right.
They don't like me already.
How many acts of terrorism occur per year globally? Jim said a couple hundred.
Between 8,000 and 20,000 per year since 2000. Yeah. So, but Jim was right, though. This is where he started to get on track. So he started to say, it was like, somebody spills your drink or something like that. This also includes attacks that didn't kill anybody or didn't hurt anybody, but were terrorist attacks because they were meant to deliver a message to a government or to an organization. So we're talking about if there is a small bombing, every small shooting that fits those criteria, those are counted in the data. So since about 2000, we're talking between 8,000 and 20,000.
So that's like when they started with the French Revolution, right? And it was just little things. It was little things like, I have given them an eclair that is a day old. Oh, not going to be as fresh for him.
I like how you say small bombings, by the way. Is that including the guys that set off fireworks in my neighborhood every night? Or do they consider terrorists?
Yeah, 3 a.m.
My dog would say they are.
Yeah, to your neighborhood, they might be. But no, there are small bombings. Like there are groups. There's a group called the Animal Liberation Front and the Earth Liberation Front, where they'll throw small fire bombs at like researchers' front doors and things like that. And those count. They don't kill anybody, but they damage property. And they're meant to intimidate people, so that they go into the count.
So me putting a dog shit in a bag and taking that bag up to a friend's house and then lighting it and then making them stamp it out, is that terrorism?
So if somebody interviewed you and you meant for them to put their foot in shit, no. But if you meant for them to slip on the shit and hit their head, yes.
then it is terrorism.
But what are you trying to get? What point are you trying to get
what's
across?
the political message?
Trying to get my wife to pay me attention.
Wow.
It's a cry for help.
You put it on your own doorstep.
I burnt
Jack's
down,
gonna
I
have
burnt
to
down
clean
3
it.
doors now. I should know when she's home.
It's your own
I've had to
doors.
tread in my own shit. You can't pick up dog shit anymore. I got to put it my own product in the bag.
Just put it at the foot of your bed.
Light it on fire there. Even better.
That's real terrorism.
I want to put it somewhere she might come.
What is lone actor terrorism? Jim said one fella, and then he said it's never a woman. Is that true? Is it never? Is mostly men? What is lone actor terrorism too?
Yeah. So I mean, it is exactly what it sounds like. And we use the term lone actor now, or at least people who know what they're talking about use the term lone actor. There's a term that people use called lone wolf terrorism, and that implies it's just one person who came up with an idea and they go bomb something. But often it's a person who has some kind of connection with an ideology, and then they go attack on behalf of that ideology. So they're not radicalizing alone, but they're acting alone. As far as men and women, it is the vast majority are men who engage in terrorism generally, but there are historical examples of women who have engaged in terrorism and women who engaged in lone actor terrorism. There's actually a group, if I'm remembering right, in Sri Lanka called the Tamil Tigers, and they actually had a wing of female suicide bombers. So they were specifically female suicide bombers who would blow themselves up.
Also, just for little things, I've been out with a lot of women who are emotional terrorists. And do they get in the stats? They don't. They can destroy
Political
lives.
message. They have that political message.
Oh, they have a political message. Their message is be nasty to me. I don't know. Gaslighting.
Did they not like your gun control bit? Because then you could actually make a case for it.
As a doctor, how good's that routine? You must just show that at your university all the time, just to teach kids about fudge statistics and whatnot.
All right, so I'm not sure this is going to make the podcast, but I actually went to that March for Our Lives, the gun control that the kids from the school put together, and my placard was just a Jim Jefferies head. That's all it was. I was walking around with your head on a stick.
That's sweet. I went to one of them in San Diego, walked around and no one noticed me.
Yeah, we did a field piece.
I had cameras on me.
You don't think it'll make the podcast?
To answer your question, though,
No, you said
I mean, if Jim knows that his head was on a platter.
What did you do with the head, and how did you clean the cum off?
I think it's sitting in my garage right now.
Stuck together with another head.
Norm Macdonald.
Yeah. Oh no!
Wow, it's all turned.
I'm sorry, you were saying something?
Norm Macdonald, you just said it.
Okay,
no, but he was answering a question first.
Jim's implying that the stats were all off and everything. There is a lesson to be learned there, though. You make the case that remembering the line, you say you can have whatever opinion you want, but I'm not for bullshit statements. And I do use that in methods classes I teach that just says, like, when you want to answer a question, it makes most sense to just follow the data, look at the data and what the data say, because data don't lie. So I have pulled from that bit to make the argument that you should just follow data to understand these sorts of things.
This is a bit of track, but there's a guy in Australia who's in charge of a big corporation. At the moment, he's taken a stance where you have to be vaccinated to work for him, because he works with factories and stuff like that. And he goes, everywhere else you have to have safety belts and safety lessons and safety this. And he goes, I don't think it's safe for my staff to be with unvaccinated people. And now they're taking him to court, and it might be a landmark thing where he says, no, it's a safety issue, not a opinion issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's like, if I have to make you wear a helmet, I have to make you. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have the fucking job, but if you're not vaccinated, anyway, I agree with it.
No, I agree with it.
Yeah. What is the difference between a cult and a terrorist group? Jim said a cult can it can be self-contained. Terrorist group relies on hurting others to get their message across.
I mean, that's largely accurate. In some cases, there is some overlap, especially with a group like QAnon, where they are comparing it to a cult. But generally speaking, although cults can engage in violence, and there have been instances where cults engage in violence, they often kind of just hurt themselves rather than kind of lash out. But we do have these instances like QAnon where there have been people who've been going around and actually hurting others. Even just yesterday, there was a story, I'm not sure if you saw it, about a guy from Southern California who killed his 2 kids in Mexico because he thought that, or he claimed that he was inspired by the QAnon ideology and thought they had what he called serpent blood or serpent DNA that was passed on to them from his mother. So he killed them, hid them in Mexico, and was arrested on his way back.
Who's still supporting QAnon? There's been so much evidence to the contrary.
They don't watch it, though. They don't watch any of that shit.
I know, but like they know it's not Trump now. They know it's not something. People know who it is, who even did it. And it's like so.
But that's where the overlap is between a cult and an extremist group, is that with cults, and there's actually a really good study on cults called When Prophecy Fails from like the 1950s that shows that when cults predict something and then it doesn't happen, they just fold that into what their story is and they just kick it down the line and kick it down the line. And that's what QAnon does. They're like, oh, Trump's going to be installed on March 4th. And then he's not. And they're like, oh, no, actually, it's going to be April 19th. And then he's not. And then they go, oh, well, that makes sense because it's all part of the plan. And they fold it in. So it all becomes part of the overarching story.
What's the next big QAnon thing that's meant to be happening that we got to look out for? Is there a big one coming up?
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I mean, I know about it, but I don't.
Okay, let's do this. Let's rank terrorist groups, right? Because I feel like a lot of them have moved up and down divisions, right? Like in the Premier League. Right?
They've been relegated and promoted.
Yeah, relegated. Because when I was a kid, the IRA, they really had the run of the town.
Oh, yeah.
They really knew what they were doing. They were bombing things. They were being threatening, going, you have 15 minutes to leave the building. You know, they did all that type of stuff. At least they always rang up to make sure the people got out.
Polite.
So,
yeah. It's very polite.
They were good. So they were top banana, right? And then we had like, Al Qaeda came in, then the Irish started to get along somewhat, you know, and so the IRA they hadn't brought out a hit for years. They hadn't had a new album for fucking years, and then it was Al Qaeda, and then the Taliban, and I'm not quite sure the difference between Al Qaeda and the Taliban. I'm not quite sure which ones.
About ISIS
or ISIS.
ISIS is another one that kicked off, right? And then I don't know. So let's not rank them. Who's number one at the moment? Who should we fear the most apart from white supremacists who we're talking? Because I feel like the white supremacists
You're talking about internationally?
Yeah, in the whole world. Yeah, who's the big, because the white supremacists, correct me if I'm wrong, they seem to be in more fractured groups. They don't seem to be united in one belief. There's a whole lot of people who believe a whole rainbow of stuff. Mostly just white in that rainbow.
Yeah. Rainbow's the wrong term. We don't like rainbows.
I can't believe the white supremacists don't use a rainbow flag, to be honest with you.
Now, the top threat, I mean, as I said in the U.S., the far right. But I'm generally concerned worldwide about conspiracy generally and the way that conspiracy is driving a lot of people all over the world. I mean, if we're talking about kind of the Middle East and kind of Asia, like Afghanistan and those sorts of countries, they don't have time to worry about conspiracy theories. So their concern is still Islamic extremists kind of taking over their towns and things like that. But generally speaking, throughout Europe and other places, conspiracy is driving a lot of the radicalization of these different individuals. Just because, like Jim said, the internet drives so much of this and there's so little moderation of the content that people can run into, it just catches like wildfire. So that to me is the biggest threat, is conspiracy and the way that people are buying into these conspiracies, and then kind of how the global far right has tapped into those vulnerable people who are vulnerable to conspiracies.
Is there an argument for terrorism? Because there has been some terrorist groups in history that have prevailed and been proven to be correct. Now, I hate to say that because I don't want to encourage anyone, but the famous, the ANC in South Africa, Nelson Mandela, there was bombs and whatever. He was locked up as a political prisoner, but also as a terrorist. And then history has shown that he was on the right side of things. Does that fuel people's ideology because other people have been right in the past, or is there is there good terrorist groups around? Is there a group at the moment where you're like, they're all right then? They're trying to take down the Free Tibet or whatever, you know?
Yeah, generally, I draw the line at the use of violence against civilians for the purpose of a political goal. So, and I don't care what anybody thinks, far right, far left, whatever, as long as they're not trying to hurt people who aren't involved in the political process or anything else, or even attacking people who are non-combatants. I've never seen a terrorist group where I'm going, Okay. Yeah, I'm cool with what they're doing, but I get what you're saying. And you said earlier, I mean, it's almost a cliche in people that study terrorism that one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. And that's absolutely right. And that's exactly what Nelson Mandela was. He was part of what would be considered a terrorist group, and history shows that that's not the case. So kind of history is told by the winners, and what's seen as evil and what's seen as good is really subjective depending on who's telling the story.
All right.
Valid.
How do people become violent extremists? Jim said radicalized on the internet mostly.
My dad,
this is
my
where he
dad's
got
just
into-
done it just by walking around the house.
Radio.
Yeah, the internet's the driving force now. I mean, since the advent of the internet, these groups can recruit people in ways they weren't able to do so before. And again, with less moderation of the content, it's so much easier just to put information in front of people when they buy it hook, line, and sinker. So the internet's the driving force, but that connects to another question.
Yeah, those questions are next. That's why.
Yeah, and
The
who's
echo
vulnerable
chambers and stuff. Yeah.
It's always young.
Yeah,
It's always
and-
young blokes that are suicide bombers, though, isn't it? It's always them going.
Yep.
There's going to be all these virgins waiting for you up in heaven. Just put the bomb on, and they're like, "Do I walk over there and drop the bomb down?" No. You keep it strapped to your chest. What are you telling me this for, old man? Just listen to me. You want all these virgins? Keep it strapped, and then you'll die. What's wrong with what I'm asking? What's wrong with putting a bag down and walking away? You know what I mean? Like, I'm no fucking genius. Put a bag down and walk away. Try your luck.
Well, the people who engage in suicide bombing have historically, typically, they think that the act of dying in the process of killing others is what gets them the 72 virgins. So they have to die in the attack as part of their reward. But this is where Jim really started to earn
72
his 8
women
was,
complaining who are afraid of you.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You did what on earth?
Yeah.
And like, who really wants to have sex with a virgin?
No.
There was some comedian, I forget who it was, that said after a while you're going to want a pro. You're not going to want 72 in a row who don't know what they're doing.
A lot of teethy blowjobs.
You were saying this is
72 teethy blowjobs. Waiting for you. It won't be that bad. You just felt your bones shatter away from your corpse.
So what are the online echo chambers? I didn't ask that, and why are they important? And these questions that I didn't ask you.
Yeah, this is where Jim started to earn his 8. Was he mentioned these without even talking about it? Is that it mostly happens online, because what happens is individuals, we have a tendency as people to seek out information that verifies what we already think. And when that happens online with information that advocates violence, people lock themselves in what we call echo chambers, where the information just bounces around and it perpetuates, and there's no other information that can get in. So when that happens, these people develop these ideas where nobody's arguing against them, and they think it's absolutely right to engage in violence on behalf of whatever beliefs they have at that given time. So that's an echo chamber. And that's generally what happens, that these people, and again, Jim nailed almost down to the age of people who are the ones who are most vulnerable, especially to the far right. Typically we see men between 18 and 35 who are the ones who are susceptible, not all the time, but a good chunk of the time. They fall into these echo chambers, and then they move from online to offline. And that's where we really start to run into problems.
Yeah, that is kind of true. You would never see like a 75-year-old guy who's like, I've been on this planet a long time, and
Strap a bomb to me.
Yeah.
They'll never pick me.
I've decided that
They'll think I'm just feeding birds in the middle of this concert.
Exactly. Dehumanization and De-Individuation. We didn't ask that question, but I mean, I didn't ask those because I felt Jim was I didn't want him to get points there. That was gonna be honest. Yeah.
Too easy. Yeah.
Sandbagged.
These again tie into.
Still got an 8.
These again tie into kind of the online element of radicalization, and that dehumanization is when when the Nazis would call the Jews pigs and rats and things like that. You stop seeing the enemy as a person. And when you don't see the enemy as a person anymore, it's much easier to hurt and kill them, because there have been studies to show that when you see a person or your enemy as a person, there have been studies showing that people aim their rifles away from their enemy that they're supposed to be shooting at, because they see them as people. And the farther away somebody is from something, the more likely they are to kill it. So if you make somebody think that your enemy is a pig or a rat or something other than a human, they're easier to kill. De-individuation is where you look at a group, not as a group of individual people, but just as kind of this blob of enemy. And again, that makes it easier to kill them. You don't see them as individuals. You see them as just kind of this nebulous collection of things that are easier to shoot at. And both of those relate to processes that occur in radicalization that make people more ready to kill others.
So the way not to get shot is, like, if I was in World War I would just go up to the enemy's trench and just show me personality off.
Yeah.
That's the way to do
Hello,
it.
my baby.
Yeah.
Do a type 5.
I've got kids.
I mean, they say that if you're being attacked just individually, like a lot of times what you should be doing is telling the perpetrator like details about your life, because you become more human to them, and then they have this like kind of guilt set in. And if you're like screaming for your life or whatever, they feed on the power. So you're supposed to like stay calm and tell them details about your life.
Yeah, have you seen Darren Brown's Sacrifice?
Life hack.
That's a good one.
Stay alive.
No, but I'm ready to hear about it.
Yeah, watch Darren Brown's Sacrifice.
Wait.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, you're in these Darren Brown.
Yeah, I love the guy. I
He's
think
like a mentalist.
I think he's brilliant. I wouldn't want to spend 2 minutes with him. He'd have me kill someone.
Yeah.
He's a fucking genius. But that Sacrifice is basically, he tries to make a guy who's arguably a racist sacrifice his own life for a minority.
Wow.
And just through power of the mind, and just through the same things what you were saying, just saying this person's like you and this person is a thing, and then you have this and blah, 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 and like that. You watch it, it's very good.
What's it called again?
Sacrifice. Darren Brown. Darren, not Darren. Darren.
Okay.
And there's a case where I forget the guy's name, but it was a black gentleman in the South who would almost go door to door and introduce himself to people who are members of the KKK. And he actually had a closet full of Klan hoods that he collected from them, who gave their Klan hoods to him, and stepped away from the KKK because he would engage with them one-on-one and have conversations with them.
Some of
And
them
he would
did
see
think
them.
he was a dry cleaner, though.
Yeah.
Like, they're dumb people. They're in the KKK. He tried to tell them.
You got to
Why are you
stand.
cleaning only hoods?
Yeah.
That's where all the food is that goes in there. Yeah. Which U.S. states have the most far-right groups? Jim said Alabama, California, Kansas, and South Dakota.
Yeah. I just picked across the country, you see.
Yeah, well, you're in the ballpark in terms of per capita. Like you have a lot of racists and hate mongers per million people in those places. But the places that have the most, you were right, California, just by nature of the fact that there's so many people there. And Southern California is actually a real hotbed of white supremacism. That's where there's a group called the Hammerskins there. I lived in Huntington Beach for 3 years.
I don't think we have that many meetings. Bad people.
I heard there's a Glendora, that area, Glendora, I heard.
Really?
Because there's a donut shop I like out there. And my friend who's Vietnamese said he's one that introduced me to it. And he goes, we got to get in and out of there fast. A lot of white supremacists there. So
Really? Remember we were doing the Jefferies show and we had this thing, and I told you about like the Klan had just started up in Australia. Like they were giving it a hot go. You know what I mean? Like there's no Klan. There was a couple of blokes who were like, we should have the Klan as well. It started in the hills of Perth, right?
Mm.
And they started it up, but no one had given them the right patterns. You know, they were making their own hoods.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like just sacks with eyes cut out of them.
Paisley.
Yeah. Just remember that guy? They came and they stormed Parliament. They were they were in bed sheets like ghosts, like kids from school, like Charlie Brown ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So California, you said sorry.
Well, yeah, California. I mean, Kelly nailed it. Huntington Beach. I lived there, and like in the apartment complex I lived in, I mean, there were at least 3 pickup trucks with Confederate flags there. But Southern California is a hotbed of white supremacism. And if we're just looking at kind of overall where the most are, places like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, they're quite a bit. And most attacks that you see are in metropolitan areas like New York, DC, and
That's why
Miami.
all those California songs are a little racist.
They are?
Let's get racist now. Everybody's learning how. Come and say the N-word with me.
You must have heard a different version than Ed.
Yeah, that wasn't the radio version.
That was the one his dad played.
It's a KKK cut.
in Australia, there's groups there. I was working with an Australian researcher, and they said you have groups that are called bikies, and they're very closely connected to a lot of the white supremacist groups.
Bikies in Australia. So when I see something like Sons of Anarchy, or I see some bloke who wears like a bikie jacket in a bar in America, I'm going, oh, that's adorable. Because bikies in Australia, you don't fuck with, man. They're in real fucking gangs, and they run all the drugs and they run all the nightclubs. And there's one where like there was a bikie who was killed by another bikie, and they fucking smashed his head in with one of those poles at the airport that keep the velvet rope up, right? In front of a whole lot of people, and there was no video footage. It was a fucking Sydney International. There was no video footage of the ticket cutting where the guy's head got smashed in. And then like if a biker has like a funeral in Australia, in Perth, the cops will block off the street so they can do a cavalcade of all the bikes going all the way along. And for the funeral, so we all, the traffic's all fucked up and stuff. They wouldn't do that for a fucking anybody.
So the bikies are just biker gangs.
Biker gangs. Yeah, we call
essentially
them
like Hell's Angels.
Yeah, there's about 5 or 6 different factions. They bring all the drugs in. They were a lot of the groups that got caught with that app at the moment where they had to buy the app. So
wow.
Yeah. So,
the bikies still sound so cute.
It's
the bikies.
I went on a couple of dates with a guy whose dad was a Hell's Angel.
It's pronounced Nike shoes, and then we call them bikies.
Yeah. You went on a date with a biker?
They're like the Australian Yakuza.
I went on a couple of dates with a guy whose dad was a Hell's Angel. It didn't end well.
You kill him, did you?
No, he turned into a psycho.
What?
Yeah, it's so weird.
What?
Who are the Oath Keepers? Jim had no idea who they were. The 3 percenters. Oh, he said they're the ones that make a lot of money and trying to take people down.
The Oath Keepers are the bikers that are high up that are like, fucking oath, mate. Oh, yeah, keep this fucking
I
oath.
thought they were in Game of Thrones, it sounds like. But yeah.
They're very similar to the Oath Keepers and the 3 percenters. They're both right-wing militias in the U.S. They were both involved with January 6th. Basically, they think that they are they're defenders of the Constitution as they see fit, as they think the Constitution should be defended. They're described as it's supposed to be anti-government, but that's kind of a misnomer now because they were clearly in support of Trump, so they were in support of him staying in office after January 6th. But the Oath Keepers are largely made up of kind of former cops, former soldiers, because they took an oath to protect the Constitution. And the 3 percenters who they've since dissolved in the U.S. since January 6th. They took their name from the wrong assumption that 3% of colonists rose up against King George during the Revolutionary War, which is completely incorrect, but they took it anyway. So, but they dissolved in the U.S. They don't exist in the U.S. anymore,
and
at least in any formal
Did they
structure.
just break up because they thought that QAnon was bullshit in the end, and they just went, enough of this? Or is it they just lost
because
their battles?
January 6th happened. They went, oh shit, and they just kind of split. They're like, okay, we're done. You took it a bit farther than we were ready to go. So the formal structure split up. They still exist kind of in splinters around the country, but not like they were before January 6th. It was mostly them going, ooh, we might have caused some problems here.
Now, I've always thought this with like supremacist groups and stuff like that. When they meet, right? Order, everyone sit down. We got some things to talk about. First on the agenda, black people, what are they like? And then they talk about Asian people. They must be annoying. The government. Let's play pool.
We got Chipotle.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you can't talk about that for the whole meeting. Some of it's got to be just hanging out, listening to Jethro Tull and having beers, right?
Jethro Tull. I think it's white supremacist music.
I think that would be
Ted Major.
Thick as a brick.
Skinner, definitely Skinner.
Leonard Skinner, yeah.
Skinner
I was thinking of Leonard Skinner, but I mean, Leonard Skinner were probably nice blokes. They've been corrupted by the terrorist groups, I tell you.
There was some documentary, and there was something about when they had the Confederate flag on their album. I don't remember now, but yeah, it's
yeah. They said I read about that. They I forget what their explanation was, but they said they were trying to reclaim it back from the racists or something along those lines. It wasn't like the people who support Skinner and they're thinking, oh, see, Dixie and da-da-da. But it was the opposite of what Skinner meant.
Fuck flags, man. We've said it before.
Yeah.
The
So
fucking
stupid.
people get so passionate about fucking flags. Calm down. Also, Leonard Skinner, thanks for claiming it back. We needed your help. The Duke boys had tried to claim it back, but they didn't really pull it off.
Yeah, they're driving a car called the General Lee.
Yeah, the
It's
General
a little
Lee.
tough.
Jim?
Is this racist? I like Elvis Presley's American Odyssey. When he goes, well, I wish I was in a land of cotton, all things there. And then when I listen to the lyrics, I'm like, bit racist, Elvis. Well, I wish I was in Dixie. That's like the anthem of the fucking Confederacy. But geez, he sings good in that album, man. He fucking kicks ass in that song. All right.
Like listening to
QAnon.
It's like listening to Michael Jackson. Just donate money to something that supports the cause after you listen to it.
Yeah, I've got a theory on Michael Jackson. I listened right up until he left the Jackson 5 because I feel before then he was a kid and it was all right if he was experimenting. But like after that, he's a pedophile. So I listen to Jackson 5 music, but not his adult music. I'm still amazed when you're in like a cafe or something and Michael Jackson comes on the radio and no one's just going, what the fuck? Everyone seems pretty calm with it still.
Yeah, no, they like it. Good beats. Good beats. Is QAnon a terrorist group then? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, QAnon is this. It's a series of overlapping ideologies. I mean, even they're not organized in a way where you could call it a terrorist group, but they have individuals who have engaged in terrorism on their behalf. So QAnon, I mean, they started on like the Chan boards, like the 4chan, the 8chan, and Jim mentioned the guy who was really just kind of doing it on a lark and has caused all these problems by developing this ideology. Yeah, so. I mean, it started as this idea that the government is run by this behind the scenes, behind the curtain cabal of Democrats who engage in child sex trafficking. And that's why, if you remember a couple of years ago, that guy went to that pizza place in DC and fired a couple of rounds into the pizza place. That was a QAnon thing. So they think that this cabal of behind the scenes pedophiles has conspired to keep Donald Trump out of office. So there have been individuals who engage in terrorism on behalf of that Q ideology. But because QAnon's so splintered, it's difficult to say they're a terrorist group because there's no real formal structure to them.
If there's really a cabal of pedophiles, why wouldn't they want Trump in that?
Oh, look, we've met famous people doing. I've met some A-list movie stars. Spent time with them. Not one of them offered me an adrenal gland. Not one. Now, there's part of me that thinks I'm not part of their club.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, but there's no one ever like jokingly invited me to one of these things.
And there's nobody like that says anything that's like trying to gauge your interest.
We did that QAnon thing on the Jefferies show where we talked to the QAnon conspiracy theorists. And I said, why haven't I been invited? And they went, oh, they think, and they were right, you know. They go. They thought I wouldn't be able to keep the secret.
You wouldn't be able
I'd be like, have I got a new routine for you? So me, Hillary Clinton, Tom Hanks, we're all chugging back on adrenal glands. So Chet Hanks, he came out and did a little rant on his anti-vaccine. His father was one of the first people to have the virus. His mother also
that made us take it
had
seriously.
The virus that made us take it serious. Then this fucking numbnut gets on and goes, yeah, it's just a fucking flu. Your dad's also got a conspiracy theory that he eats adrenal glands. Maybe, even if you aren't, don't be a conspiracy theorist in the fucking public eye, you fucking cocksucker. And I know Tom Hanks is sitting at home applauding right now, just laying back at his lazy boy.
Thank you, Jim. I hate my son.
Tom Hanks is laughing so much right now, he just spat an adrenal gland across the room.
I'm getting a call. No, it's not him. Okay. It's a scam.
But shut up, Chet.
You're going to get calls so far, it's guaranteed.
All right.
Shut up, Chet.
What are the Turner Diaries? Jim said it's when Trey Turner is coming to the Dodgers.
This is where I got my
got an 8. Yeah.
So this is basically the neo-Nazi white supremacist Bible that kind of inspired white supremacists in the 80s and 90s, and was actually a really inspirational document for the Oklahoma City bombing. It's this book that the head of a white supremacist group wrote about a race war in the U.S. That was basically predicated on the idea that the government was coming to take all your guns. So because the government's coming to take your guns, the government is aligning themselves with African Americans, and there's a need to fight back against that. So
This is where all that bullshit comes from?
That seems to be a bit of a leap because
It's-
African Americans have guns as well. They'd have their guns taken. And
logic is not their strong point, Jim.
Right.
Like they just ignore that. But yeah, so the Turner Diaries, and there's a sequel to it called Hunter, another book that the Turner Diaries was actually found in Timothy McVeigh's the front seat of his car when he was pulled over after he bombed Oklahoma City. So this book, it's not the start of this kind of idea, but it was a book that served an inspiration to a lot of people who adopted it.
is there any terrorist group that we should be on the lookout that are on the rise that people may not be aware of?
I mean, generally speaking, the groups that splinter off from the main groups are the ones that are the most dangerous because they tend to be more violent than the groups they leave. So you mentioned the IRA before, which is a really good example. So the IRA, they decommissioned in, I think, 1998. The Irish Republican Army as it was, but there were other groups that split off from them who were more violent. So there was a group who called themselves the Real IRA, which not terribly, creative, but they bombed, or they set up a bomb, or they blew up a bomb in a town called Oma and killed a lot of people. So these groups splinter off. What I'm concerned about is that when people leave QAnon, who aren't disillusioned, who still buy the ideology, but the group's not violent enough for them, those are the ones I'm concerned about. Or the individuals who, when they're finally, like when the Trump supporters finally kind of say, okay, we can't really do anything here. The ones that break off and want to keep the fight going, they're the ones I'm concerned about because they generally tend to be the hardliners.
So they changed the name to the Real IRA, which isn't, as you said, and there's so many good Irish names they could have get. The Gaelic IRA, Potato IRA.
It's just like when you get an Instagram.
To be sure, IRA.
They couldn't get the IRA handle on Instagram, so they had to be like the official IRA.
Oh, it gets better. There was the Real IRA that broke off. There was another group called the Continuity IRA that broke off. And there was a group called Oglanehieren, which in Irish means the Irish Republican Army. They just use the Irish word, the Irish name.
I would have just called it the IRA and then put a question mark at the end so people said it different. The IRA?
January 6th. So I asked Jim why they did it. He said they were protesting. They believed that the election was rigged, blah, blah, blah. Utter bullshit. That's the reason. And then, or were they a terrorist group? He said, of course they were. So what's going on there?
Yeah, so accurate. They were fighting against the certification of the election. They thought that they had to, go in. There were those who were violent, who were attacking, or they sought to attack actual politicians. As to whether they were terrorists, so this is where it gets tricky, where you have to kind of apply those four things. Because when you look at law related to terrorism and our ideas about terrorism, they deviate a little bit. So individuals who engaged in violence on the Hill, those sorts of people you could plausibly charge with terrorist offenses. Individuals who didn't engage in violence but were on the Hill, you might want to charge with something else. And that's what we're seeing. Like, a lot of people are unsatisfied with the charges that are being levied against the people who were on Capitol Hill, because a lot of the times it's like trespassing or breaking and entering or things like that. It's because it's easier to prosecute those crimes. So the individuals who engage in actual violence, I think we're going to see them prosecuted using terrorism type laws. So if people engage in violence there, terrorists. If they didn't engage in violence, not terrorists. Using the definitions that we have.
I would love to be a judge who gets to sentence the cunt who wore the horned hat and painted himself.
He was in the QAnon doc too.
Yeah.
He was like all over the place.
Yeah, he's a character.
Yeah.
He's a character.
He's got an IMDb page. He tried to get a bit of acting work.
God. But like Ashley Babbitt's family, aren't they suing for her being shot? And it's like, she's a fucking terrorist. She was trying to break it. They gave her warnings. She was breaking through a window. Is there any chance that they win that lawsuit?
I mean, I'm not a legal expert, but I do know that organizations like to settle just to get it over with. That said, I think no. I don't think they win that lawsuit. If they do, I'll be surprised. I mean, it's all on video. Everything else is right there. So I'll be really surprised if they win that lawsuit.
Now, when we said the biggest threat to America is domestic terrorism, which is our own people, normally far-right white supremacist groups that are attacking us. Now, do white American terrorists, do we ever bomb or cause mischief in another country the same way the Muslim people did 9/11 or what have you? Do we ever stretch outside of our own country? We seem pretty contained.
Right,
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Yeah, we don't see that. It's tough for them to get a passport. But no, like generally, I mean, the right-wing terrorism is pretty global. Like it's pretty extensive, especially in places like Eastern Europe, and there's populist leaders all throughout Europe. So we see it there. But generally, they stay put, and they want to not overthrow, but they want to shape their governments in a way that's friendly to white supremacism and neo-Nazism and all these other far-right things. We don't see the far right going to Central Asia, trying to change Turkmenistan into a white supremacist country in the same way that we saw ISIS trying to branch out and attack their perceived enemies.
So there's been no like Australian bloke called Terry who took a bomb to a marketplace in some Asian country and blew up a whole lot of people. That hasn't happened?
Well, we did see Tarrant, the guy who shot up the mosques in New Zealand. He was
an Australian who went over there, yeah.
Yeah. So he did. He didn't go far, but he did go, and he killed, I think, 50 or 60 people there. So we did see that there. So it does happen, but it's not typically a goal of the far right groups to go into other countries and shape their governance. It typically is a domestic type thing.
What is stochastic terrorism? Jim said opposite of sarcastic. Sto from Latin story. Castic means ugly. Got an 8. Sarcastic story meant good faith. Stochastic terrorism.
So this is I think the answer that I gave him that made me decide 8 instead of 7 was. So it has to do with like the in good faith was the part that he tacked on, which was kind of interesting because this is what I'm studying now is this idea that
you keep saying words to get it right, Jim. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Anytime you want an extra point, you say from the Latin.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Not at all. So the term stochastic comes from statistics. So that's a process where you can't predict when and where it's going to happen, but it will happen. So if you're sitting on your front porch and you see like storm clouds coming in and lightning's going to strike somewhere, but you can never say when and where, that's a stochastic process. So stochastic terrorism is kind of a new concept where it relates to when public figures, they have 88 million followers, for example, and they say things that are subtle that allude to the use of violence. So when Donald Trump stood in front of a bunch of people on January 6th and said, we need to fight or you're going to lose your rights. Or when he said, liberate Michigan, liberate Minnesota, things like that, that don't overtly direct violence. But when you have a group of 88 million people, at least a couple are going to interpret it as an actual call to violence. You can't say when and where, but it's going to happen. That's stochastic terrorism. So what I'm looking at now, my research looks at how do people interpret those kind of little winks and nudges to people to engage in violence. The tricky part is because they don't overtly direct violence. And in the US especially, which I consider, it's difficult because I think the First Amendment is completely, it's sanctified, it's sacrosanct. People have the freedom to say whatever they want to when they don't overtly direct violence, but people engage in violence on their behalf. There's got to be a line there that we haven't identified. So stochastic terrorism is when people engage in violence on behalf of somebody who made these little winks and nods, these little inside jokes, these dog whistles that somebody should go kill somebody else. And that's happened many times in the last 5 years.
Oh, coincidence? No.
Do we have more internal terrorism now than we did back in the 60s or whatever like that? Because like the 60s, the Ku Klux Klan was still rife, and there was still the civil rights movement hadn't even finished. You know what I mean? So did we have more now, or it's just that they're more prevalent because we can see them on the internet?
It's deadlier. A lot of the attacks now they hurt and kill more people than they did in the 60s and 70s. And there's data to show that the orientation of the attacks has changed. So you're right. 60s, 70s, there was a lot of left-wing type attacks in response to the Vietnam War. There were a lot of terrorist attacks then. As we moved into the 80s and 90s, there was a bit of right-wing terrorism we saw. And then in 2000, 2001, other than the 9/11, we saw, again, a little bit of a spike in left-wing. But since then, since like 2002, it's been not nothing but right-wing, but mostly right-wing attacks. And they've generally been a bit deadlier than they have. Worldwide, we have less terrorism now than we did in, say, the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Right.
But in the U.S., we're seeing it a bit deadlier, and that has to do with things like the IRA is not around anymore. They were very active in the 80s and
the
90s.
90s in America seem to be fairly terrorist free. All they seem to do is chat about Bill getting a fucking blowjob, and no one seemed to be too upset. Nirvana was about as much angst as we had as a society.
Well, there was an assault weapons ban
Yeah.
during his time. So
When was Rodney King again?
Rodney King was in but it was still before Columbine. Like Columbine was really where it ticked off for school shootings. Before that, we really didn't think that they were a thing. And then that happened and people...
There were a couple.
Was there?
No, go ahead, Jim.
No. I just feel like Columbine was the moment that like some fucking people watched the telly and went, oh, I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was even an option.
That was actually the incident that got me interested in studying violence or reading about violence was Columbine, because I was a senior in high school when that happened, and I was glued to the TV watching it happen. And it almost seems cute now. It's like, oh, you killed 15. That's cute. And now, I mean, dozens and dozens of people get killed in school shootings. Since the lockdown's not as much, but I'm sure we'll get right back to it relatively soon.
All right. Last question we had on here was, is Antifa a terrorist group? Jim said, just calm down, everyone. I am beholder.
Here's where we're going to get into your comment section is going to get angry. So Antifa is not even a group. Antifa, and this isn't my opinion. This is from the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security. It's generally an ideology that smaller cells kind of adopt, and typically any kind of violence that Antifa is engaged in, or people that identify as anti-fascists, it's typically been reactionary. So what their actions typically are if they know that a far right group is going to be protesting somewhere, or they're going to engage in violence somewhere, people who identify as part of Antifa or anti-fascists show up to fight them. It's not as proactive as the right-wing groups are. So the FBI and the DHS, they've said that Antifa poses a very, very, very small risk to people who aren't engaging in far-right protesting. Antifa is generally seen as a reactionary group who only engages in violence as a reactionary type response. Now, I don't think the DHS or FBI has considered them to be a terrorist group. Some people think they are. But again, if we're looking at the data, then what they engage in or what they have engaged in, if it is terrorism, it's nowhere near to the point of any of the far right type groups.
I understand that Antifa's reactionary and all that type of stuff, but I don't like that they seem to give an argument to the other groups that like, well, Antifa did this. I've seen a lot of that online where
I think that's just typical scapegoating, though.
Of course,
it's just the right wing pundits. They see this opportunity. Doesn't matter what group it is. They just go, that was Antifa. That was Antifa. That was Antifa. I agree that
like when they go low, we go high type of thing. I think my mum always, when my brother was bothering me, said ignore him and he'll go away. Right now, I know that's not always the case, but okay, this is what I'll say about Antifa and about the QAnon people. All of you. Now, I'm sure some of you are right and some of you are wrong and some of you are misled and some of you are just indoctrinated into whatever situation you're in. I don't want to beer with any of you. You all look like an annoying fucking group to me.
They're not invited to your house?
Yeah, you're none of you allowed. I don't drink anymore, but if I... Not even a non-alcoholic beer. Even if I drink a non-alcoholic beer with any of you, I'll get into an argument. I'll just be like, all right, calm down.
Well, there's got to be some people out there fighting those battles for you so you can stay home and calm down.
I'm not gonna say Donald Trump. I believe there's good people on both sides.
Oh boy!
I'm not gonna say that.
Louise, cut that out.
I'm not gonna say that. I said I believe in most of Antifa's ideologies. I believe in most of them. I just believe that I don't know if it's helping all the time, and I might be wrong. I haven't been out there. I haven't done the hard yards. I might be wrong, but I do know that it seems to be a young person's game.
I think there are a lot of people who like to use Antifa as this, they're just bad faith actors anyway, and they want to kind of just go destroy shit. And so they will do that under the guise of being part of this group because it's more acceptable. So there's always going to be people that are fucking assholes.
I also think in my early 20s, I would have been well up for that. Just going in, we're going to go
just
change the world
windows.
and we're going to protect things and we're going to do the right. They're in the wrong, we're in the right. And also, there's going to be chicks there, man. That's what we come down to. There's going to be chicks there. And then, after a good rating or whatever, they're horny as fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
There actually is a phenomenon that gets studied based on what Jim's saying. They call it reciprocal radicalization, where because there's this one side who's making a point, the other side feels like it needs to ratchet it up. So the other side needs to feel like it ratchets it up. So Antifa on the far right, you saw it in Ireland when the Republicans, so like the IRA, and then you had the loyalists like the Ulster Volunteer Force and all those other groups. So there's always groups fighting each other, and you see that. You see one group does one thing, the other group does.
It's part of the reason I stopped talking about being an atheist as much. I'm still an atheist. I still don't believe there's a God or anything of that rubbish. I think it's all complete piffle. But I'm still an atheist. But if I cannot be asked talking to atheists anymore, especially new atheists, they're the fucking worst. If you just become an atheist like last week, leave me the fuck alone. I don't want to hear about your new fucking man. None of it's real. Yes, fucking accept that none of it's real. Move along. One of the beautiful things about being an atheist is you don't have to think about God. Stop thinking about him.
They just took their first philosophy freshman class.
Yeah. You know, you must deal with students all the time. They're like, doctor, man, the world is like different. I'm seeing it through a new lens. What do you say to those kids?
Everything is subjective. I'm glad you're learning something.
There you go. All right.
No, the biggest problem I get is like, and I'll get on the strength of this podcast too, is every time I'll do a public appearance and talk about this, I'll get emails. I will absolutely get emails from people who threaten me or try to convince me of some point of view. That's the much bigger annoyance than my students. My students, yeah, you get those who they learn something for the first time because they've stepped outside their hometown and now they see something else. And that's actually it's gratifying because you get to see them understand that a lot of the world is bullshit.
When you see a young person blossom from that, I've believed everything my parents ever told me. My parents were right. My parents guided me all through life. And then they have those few years out. And then you have that realization that maybe your parents aren't as smart as you. I used to think my mother was a scientist. I think she was the smartest person as well. Not a stupid person, but I thought she was hugely smart. And then I was like, oh, she doesn't know everything.
Right.
And then you have to understand that you don't know everything as well. But it's like, I love that type of like where you get like some guy from, he's from the middle of the country and he's in his early 20s and he's a young comic and you invite him to a party and there's a few gay people there and he's like, and it's a pleasure to meet you. And you're like, you're doing great. You're doing great. So your lifestyle's a bit different. Is it good for you?
All right. This is the part of the show called Dinner Party Facts. Our guest gives us an obscure or interesting fact that our audience might not know so they can use it to impress people. What do you got for us?
I have that everybody basically remembers when Osama bin Laden was killed in 2011. It was May 1st, 2011. So
we had Rob O'Neill on the podcast. I don't know if you listened. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, you did. Weirdly, I've not listened to that episode yet, but it's definitely my cue.
He says he didn't do it.
Yeah. Until it's time for book sales, then he says. But when he was killed, they obviously captured a lot of intelligence when they were there. And they got his hard drives. In addition to everything they found on his hard drives, plans and speeches and things like that, they also found two interesting things. They found a bunch of Disney movies and they found a lot of porn. They found a ton of porn on Osama bin Laden's hard drives.
It's hard to tell the difference between the two, though. Isn't it?
What kind of porn?
From what I understand,
both of them have the same result. I love a good
I'm not
show
sure
tune.
it wasn't Disney porn. It wasn't Disney porn. It was Disney and porn.
Yeah.
Doesn't he know that you should be streaming porn? He didn't even know that? So what kind of mastermind is he?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, he was, I don't know if he had T1 or like high-fast or high-speed internet
So
there. He might have been working with dial-up.
Yeah.
The Disney movies, eh? Oh, I'd like to watch that. And they were
So he's got a soft spot.
they were hard drives. They weren't video cassettes.
Yeah, hard
He did
drive.
that on the computers.
They got their, he got his laptops and hard drives. Yeah, they got
So he
all
probably
those things.
pirated
They got
them.
all his plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
He did not buy those movies.
Piracy hurts artists.
So for all you porn stars out there, and I'm a fan of many of you, well done. I have no judgment on your job. I'm fucking a big supporter. But do know that bin Laden wanked off to you. Because often people go, what would your dad think? No, just know that bin Laden shot a big wad of cum out of his dick thinking about you.
Is that aiding and abetting the enemy? It might.
I don't know. Maybe it made him weak. Maybe it's the thing that won us the war.
Thank you, then. You should be thanking them.
Thank you.
Dr. Kurt Braddock, his book is Weaponized Words, The Strategic Role of Persuasion in Violent Radicalization and Counter-Radicalization, available everywhere. On Twitter is at Kurt Braddock. That's KurtBraddock. And his website is kurtbraddock.com.
Well, I could talk about this for another hour, me, but we can't.
Okay.
There's no,
Alas.
there's no reason to.
I think we've covered it all.
This is the last. This is the last thing that I think on terrorism. I think people have to speak out internally. I reckon when there's a Muslim that bloody attacks a building, the Muslim people have to get together and go on the news as much as possible and condemn. And I think white people have to do the same thing: condemn, and that's all we can really do.
Jim, you just exactly explained why I study white supremacist terrorism now, because after September 11th, I was only 20 then, but I remember a bunch of white people saying, well, why don't the good Muslims try to condemn the bad Muslims? And I said, well, why don't the good white people condemn the bad white people? So that's why I started looking at neo-Nazism and white supremacism and all that kind of far-right extremism, because, I mean, we need to clean up our own backyard before we condemn anybody else, really.
Right.
Well, thank you, Doctor. Thank you for being on the podcast. That was good. If you're ever at a party and someone comes up to you and goes, oh, bloody hell, there's more Muslim terrorists than there are white people, go, I don't know about that. And then drop your bag down and leave the building really quickly.
God damn.
No.
We did so much good there.